Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Wizard Table. I'm your host, Tim Allen, and tonight I got a special co-host from Canada, all the way from Canada, Teresa Solomon, my sister from underneath the Canadian trick, the Slavic Witch. Also has a show called Ancestral Eyes. If you have not seen Ancestral Eyes, if you have not seen Ancestral Eyes, I highly recommend that you check it out. It is a great, great show. Tonight, Teresa is filling in for my normal co-host, Mistress B. Mistress B is taking the night off because she has family who has come in from out of town, which is very important. So thank you, Teresa.
You're most welcome, my dear, and it's a pleasure always, my bro. My Ken Allen, brother from another mother. And welcome to our guests, our esteemed guests. You know what I want to say? Echo and the Bunnymen, but it's Bigfoot and the Bunny.
Yes. Chris Carr and Kristen Johnson from the podcast Bigfoot and the Bunny. Also a great show. I highly recommend that you check them out. So I want to go ahead and read their bio, because I think it's important.
I like the Echo and the Bunnymen thing.
I do too. It's one of my favorite bands.
Okay, so Chris Carr and Kristen Johnson host the live radio show Bigfoot and the Bunny, a couple's journey into the mysterious, the unknown, and the paranormal, as well as the Dark Horse Paranormal podcast. They hail from New England. Woo, that's way up there. And both had haunted childhoods that would lead them on different paths in life that eventually blossomed into them investigating together. A simple 20-minute EVP and spirit box session exploded into a lifelong passion for paranormal research. There is a chemistry between the two that creates a stronger bond with the spirit world than when they are apart. They spend their time trying to answer questions like, what is a ghost? What happens when we die? Is that a UAP or a fairy? What is this consciousness we are experiencing, and why is my house haunted? With love in their hearts, a curiosity about all things supernatural, as well as a wicked sense of humor, and I know that personally.
Yeah,
they are the haunted couple you will love talking to and hearing from. Welcome, Chris and Christian from Bigfoot and the Bunny.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
The introduction.
I tried to read it like, some like how Anne Rice would, but nah, that shit failed.
We totally understand.
It sounded just wonderful, Ken.
I love because we also, have our podcast and show and stuff. Is like I'll ask for a bio and I'll get like a 4-page bio.
Yeah.
And of course you're chasing your tail last minute trying to get everything ready for the show. It's like, oh crap, I haven't looked at it yet. And then there's like 4 pages of stuff to read.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so and so is also a and when they were 3, they had a glass of milk. And then it goes on, on and on and on. And they're like trying to get through this and pronunciate all the words correctly and sound like a normal human. Sometimes
well, we're late tonight. We're a little late. We ran over about 18 minutes, something like that, and that's fine. That's cool. Listen, when you're doing podcasts and when you're doing them live, you're going to have technical issues. It's just par for the course. It's going to happen. So
it's definitely part of the game. Live radio. Absolutely. We had our own issues. We had a wonderful guest on tonight, but she couldn't be on because she
had
didn't
no
have
Wi-Fi.
Real Wi-Fi going on. She recently moved to the woods. She lives on a converted bus that is really cool looking.
It is
like
cool.
We saw pictures of it. It looked amazing, like a really cool like Winnebago type thing. But
nice.
No Wi-Fi really where she was at. So
that's the issue.
We appraise that and do it again some other time. So. We're glad
I would be interested in seeing what her house looks like. Now, when you say a bus, are you talking about a school bus or like a city?
It is a school bus.
Yes.
Yeah.
Teresa, what do you got to say about that?
Okay, I'm a school bus driver, and this is one of my dreams. Okay, is seriously getting an old school bus, refurbishing it, and traveling. Right. And I have seen videos because I have a friend who actually has a van, and she's converted her van into a living studio and a place to live, right? And she
Oh, wow.
travels, so
Yeah.
yeah,
That's what she does.
excellent.
Cool.
Her name is Rachel Hoffman. She is a paranormal investigator of good reputation and a screen queen. And we'll have her back, but we just, it's live radio. Things happen,
Mm-hmm.
We can't wait.
Absolutely.
Speaking of buses, before we really dive deep into the show, I just got to say this, and I'm serious about this 100%. And me and my husband have talked about this. If I ever win the lottery, I'm going to buy one of those $200,000 motorhomes and travel the country, but I'm not driving it. He's not driving it. I am going to hire the most rugged, butchiest ass lesbianotic diesel dyke I can find to drive that damn bus.
That's awesome. I love it.
Yep.
And that bitch will drive the bus, and that bitch will also be our bodyguard.
Listen, ain't nobody getting in your way, man. She's like, yeah,
That's freaking
get
awesome.
the fuck out of my way. No.
Oh, Ken, you're hilarious.
Yeah, we got places to go here.
Absolutely.
Okay. Your name. Okay, the name of your podcast, Bigfoot and the Bunny. I'm sure a lot of people would really love to know how that came about. And also let me say, I've been on your guys' show twice. You guys have interviewed me, and I feel very honored and privileged to be interviewing you. But how did the name Bigfoot and the Bunny come about? Because I think it's great.
I love the name. I do too. I think it's great.
I'll start it and I'll let Kristen finish it. It started, I had a house. I was renting a house in Shrewsbury, Mass. Not that the location matters, but we had this big hedge that divided the yards. And in the hedge was a family of bunnies living. We used to go out and we'd feed the bunnies. And at the time, I think we were drinking quite a bit of sangria, and there might have been a little bit of fruit involved. We'd throw the fruit out to the bunnies. The bunnies would eat the fruit. But we were enjoying the front yard. It was summertime, that kind of thing. We were outside a lot, and we were always looking at the sky and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. So we were outside, like you said, and we just happened to be talking, and all I could do is go and point up because I like in the middle of our conversation. And then Chris looked up and we couldn't say anything. We were like, what we saw was this big, bright orange ball of light, faster than a plane, but way slower than a meteorite.
Right. It wasn't a shooting star, but it was zipping.
And we watched it till we couldn't see anymore in the sky and the horizon. And I went,
a lot of jets. We were outside in the sky all the time.
And then Chris looks at me. I said, this is a thing between us. You saw that, right? He goes, yeah, the next thing you're going to see is Bigfoot chasing the bunny through the yard. And so what happened was like a couple of months later, we were sitting there and we were having, sitting in his front yard and we were having a few drinks and just goofing around. We were thinking of a show name and I just was kidding. And I said to him, well, how about Bigfoot and the Bunny? He goes, oh my God, that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm like, oh, come on, really?
Yep. And I'll tell you what, people like that name. They really do. It sticks for some reason. It's a weird name. I mean, I'm not really into Bigfoot, although I can talk on Bigfoot a little bit. But it just, we liked it. We thought it was like, wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
I remember that.
It's basically based on a paranormal event. So.
And that's the UFO basis.
Well, I tell you, I love the name, and it's not a name you're going to forget.
No.
That's Bigfoot and the Bunny.
Yeah, it's better than Bigfoot and the Bunny. We have had people say.
Right. It's our English friends again. Bigfoot and the Bunny.
Yeah.
So Chris, you are Bigfoot and Kristen is the bunny, right?
Well,
I
yeah,
hope so.
there's a little clarity. Sometimes it comes up like, who's the Bigfoot and who's the bunny? Oh, dude.
So how long have you guys had your podcast, Bigfoot and the Bunny? How long have you guys been doing that?
Almost 2 years now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We've been on like some different networks, and we're on a few different networks right now, which is pretty cool. And the show seems to be growing. We like it. We learned, I mean, we had some pretty rough shows at the start because we didn't have a lot of experience with it. And over time, it's gotten better, and we've gotten a little better at interviewing. We try.
Yeah, I'm pretty new at podcasting. Well, I'm extremely new at podcasting, so I still got a lot to learn, and I admit it. But you know what? I get on here, I do it live, I don't pre-record it, I don't edit anything, and I just have a damn good time, and that's all that really matters at the end of the
Absolutely.
day.
That's what it's about.
The end of the
That's
day,
what it is about.
Exactly.
you know, people don't want to hear depressing stuff. You know what I mean? You want to just kind of be a little
No.
upbeat.
Yeah.
You know, so we try
So
to
can
keep.
I?
Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. So can I ask you, how did you both come into doing what you do, your paranormal investigations? Did it, was this something one of you started and then the other one joined, or did you meet together at an actual location, or go ahead,
No.
any one of you? Yeah. How did it happen?
I'll start it, and again, like Kristen, finish it. Only because it's relevant to what you're asking.
Mhm.
I was involved with paranormal stuff. Now, you have to understand, Kristen and I both had haunted childhoods, but they affected us very different ways.
Mhm.
I was drawn to the paranormal,
Okay.
even though we might consider my childhood, and if you want to talk about our childhoods, we can. But it was somewhat traumatic for both of us, very traumatic for Kristen, and she was not into the paranormal.
No.
I met her, I was already into it. I've been on different paranormal teams, and you know, we both had this kind of fascination with things of spiritual nature and witchcraft and different things as well. Always, but I think maybe I was a little bit more daring, if you will.
Yeah.
You know, and I like this stuff, and you know, invited it in. But Kristen lives in, you know, basically a haunted house. Her house is built in the 1700s. It's one of the houses
Wow.
in town.
Yes.
And there's always been activity there, and we dated for a long time. And this is where the real twist is, like, without us ever doing it, because she was turned off by it and didn't like it, and like, baby, I like the paranormal, I want to do a recording and stuff like that, and she was not into it.
No.
But the activity growing for whatever reason, it was growing, and she finally consented, and we did a 20-minute session, you know, trying to get EVPs, spirit box data. It scared the crap out of her.
I didn't listen to it for 2 weeks after that. I still was
Literally.
traumatized.
It may have been
my
even more than
childhood,
that.
and
Yeah, and she wouldn't even listen to it.
no, I
She
was too
like,
scared.
she was freaking out, and I do have clips from that if you want to hear them. You can hear the fear in her voice, like she is really scared.
Yeah, I'm freaked out.
But she obviously got over it, and then when we got in,
Really
she was
quickly.
like, now she's the first one to want to play the stuff back.
Did you hear
let's do a
that?
spirit box session. I'm like, Chris, come on.
So the house was from the 1700s.
The house I
Yeah.
originally live in now is in built in 1740. It was one of the first houses built in Swansea, Mass, where actually the King Philip's War started.
Wow.
Right.
This is old.
Yeah.
They call the Bridgewater Triangle.
Okay.
See,
Yeah.
her town is like really kind of part of that, or just
Mhm.
on the outskirt of it. Depends how you draw that
Mhm.
triangle, because everything around it,
It's
honestly,
just,
it's all haunted up there.
Island. Yeah.
It's right there, you know. And
Yeah.
King Philip's War actually started in her town, Swansea, Massachusetts. That's where it began, the
Mhm.
actual war, if you look up the history of it. So we feel like, you know, there's something to that, and it might be, you know, there's been a lot of people obviously who've lived there over the years. There are certain presences there that we've become familiar with,
Mhm.
have even named themselves, and that kind of stuff to us.
You know, I've always wanted to go to the New England area because it is so old, and just go there. Even, not any particular place, but just be on and around that environment, that land, and feel those energies.
Yes, to feel the energies.
Yes, it's. I mean, like it's like Savannah, Georgia, is one of the most haunted places in the world.
Mhm.
St. Augustine, Florida, is one of the most haunted places in the world. And you know, I've been to St. Augustine. I can feel the energy there. You just feel the spirits. New Orleans. I remember when me and my husband and our best friend went to New Orleans, and just walking down Bourbon Street, broad daylight. It was not a placebo effect. You feel the spirits walking right with you. So I've always wanted to go to New England. So if I do come, you guys got to cook for me, okay?
Yeah,
That's
right on.
absolutely.
And you know, we'll do that.
You can come stay in my house and you tell me what you feel. How's
Oh,
that?
I'd love to do that. I would love to do that. And one day I will.
No
So,
kidding.
Teresa, Teresa, you got anything right now?
No. Go ahead, Ken.
I was going to ask. Okay, so are you guys married, or do you guys live in sin?
We live in sin.
Well, yeah, sin.
Yeah, sinners. Yeah.
Maybe that's why you get so much activity.
Right.
Sinners.
What do you mean by activity now? Come on.
No, but no, seriously though, I know that you guys do a lot of investigations, most of your investigations, and correct me if I'm wrong, during the day. Okay.
Yes.
And
Yep,
you know
absolutely.
what? I think that's great because most investigators, they only do things at night at a certain hour, obviously, usually, mostly when the sun goes down,
Mhm.
but that makes no difference. Spirits are there. It doesn't matter if it's 2 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And you guys have, in fact, gotten some of the best evidence broad daylight.
Data. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's
We
usually
go during the day. It's just more convenient and fits our schedule.
Mhm.
I do think,
Mhm.
there might be some advantage to doing things at night as far as like being scared or doing it in the dark, like that fear that a person has. Maybe that
Mhm.
contributes in some way. I'm not
yeah, the
positive.
heightened fear.
I mean, I
Drawn
used to
to
do these things and I'd spend the whole night in, a supposed haunted house and have hours and hours of data to review. And I'd be lucky if I got anything. But I've found, and that we don't exactly know the answer to this question, why. Together, it works a lot better than separately. We both tried things separately. It's not that it doesn't work. Like I've always been pretty lucky with getting data, and Kristen does pretty good too. But together, for some reason, it does.
It's the that's why we
there's
call it
something to
chemistry,
the chemistry
between us.
I don't know.
I think so. I think that has a lot to do with it, especially if both of you are heightened in your
Mhm.
like your intuitive gifts. And always, if you're into, like when I used to do paranormal investigations, I always did it with a team, and I had like 2 or 3 people. Sometimes there were more that came, and guaranteed there was a lot more activity, there was a lot more interaction, but like you said too, with regards to going and doing something in the day, there's nothing wrong with going out in the day. In fact, sometimes it's those moments where you can catch a spirit, just doing what it's supposed to be doing. And especially if, let's say, for example, you normally work, and then one day you decide to stay home, you're not feeling good or whatever, you're playing hooky and stuff, and then you're in your home and then you hear something, right? So sometimes that little noise, or you see your apparition, it kind of shocks the ghost, so to speak, the spirit itself, right? I mean, it's like, whoa, I didn't expect you home today,
Yeah, I don't think they really sleep and like wake up at
No,
midnight
no.
or witching hour or whatever.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Not to say the data can't be caught or a day's the best, but it's certainly a viable option.
Yeah, they don't, they're not using clocks and all that stuff. They don't care about that. They're there. And especially residual, stone tape theory type stuff. That's always there.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's high.
Exactly.
We don't suspect.
I was going to ask, at your home, is it residual or is it an intelligent, spirit that can actually interact?
Well, there's one residual which he slams my bottom door. We suspect it's a he, and comes up our entry stairs, and then he goes back down and slams the door again, and it's not really happening, but you can hear it, and we suspect he's residual. There are other spirits in the house. They just follow and do what they need to do and hang around. And I suspect there's 2 women there.
They also blame each other for stuff, as we found out.
Yeah.
So
really? So you're actually interacting with them?
Yes,
it is
all the time.
interactive.
Yes. Well, not all the time, but when we're together, yes.
We have some clips
Right.
of that. That's all right to play 1 or 2.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
One-
We would love to hear some of your
Yeah.
clips if you could.
If
do
you're
that for us.
them being interactive, like
Mm.
this is probably a good clip. We had taken a little break from investigating because we were feeling pretty haunted, and that's not for the first time. We find sometimes our best banishing that we can do is just to kind of take a break from it.
Mhm.
And back in January, we started doing it again, or at least we did it one session in
Just to see.
Kristen's house in her dining room. And this is a clip from that.
Who just ran their fingers through my hair?
Five times, Paul.
Yes.
6.
I'm
There's a lot
pretty
of
sure it's
Pauls
Paul.
That is what it's saying. It said Paul.
People did it.
Yeah.
They want us to think Paul did it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whether it was Paul or not, the name Paul was spoken. I heard it.
Five
It
times.
certainly was. You know,
Paul. It's like Paul.
Oh, yeah. Paul.
he got blamed.
I
Kristen
call
calls
it
blame
the
game.
blame game. Yeah, that's what I call the clip.
We have a lot of stuff like that that we find pretty interesting. And the thing with the spirit box is like people look at it and say, well, that's just random DJ noise and that kind of thing. But to get a name repeated over and over, you got to look at the evidence of it. Now, I don't claim any of it to be evidence. I call it data. You know,
Yeah.
we like that word a lot better and we're more comfortable with it. We're not really trying to prove anything, but at least you got to look at it and say, well, this happened, right? Like, it does sound like Paul to me, you know.
Absolutely.
And I hear it over and over. So what does that mean? What are the odds of even having words that sound so similar?
Right.
You know, come across the band that way, that's sweeping. It's just
well, and here's the other thing, though. Here's the other thing, and I've experienced this when I've used the Spirit Box. Is okay. I used to be a professional commercial radio a DJ in Tallahassee, and I know for a fact there are certain things you cannot say on the air, or you will, you know, you'll get. I'm talking serious fines, like $100,000 fines.
Like-
You'll get more or more.
See?
But I have heard on the Spirit Box things such as fuck, you know, pussy or asshole. I've heard those things.
yeah,
No, we
do
get
seem
that
angry.
often.
Sometimes they're very angry, and I don't know why that is. You know, maybe that's why they're.
And to me, that just validates the fact that this isn't just, you know, some random disc jockey or something on the air. This is Spirit saying this because the FCC don't put up with that.
Right. Right.
You can't do it, right? It's not allowed. Actually, speaking of that, I'll play one other clip. Now, this clip is interesting. We were very obsessed with a certain haunting, and we can get into that stuff later. But we were found that we could channel it like from our homes and that kind of stuff. And if we felt a certain way, Kristen is at her house. I'm at my house at the time. It's about a year ago. And we were talking. So I put Kristen on speakerphone, put on my recorder, and I put on the Spirit Box.
I put my recorder on.
Before I put on the Spirit Box, we actually captured 2 EVPs. And that was the best part of that recording. The thing is, the recording almost sounds like something's going on because I have this nice, like, kind of Tascam, like, kind of high level recorder. It records really, really well, but we've found it through experience that when it's like touched by spirit or we're getting something to do with spirit, it'll start to sound overdriven, even though it's not. It has a light on it that tells you, you know, it's too loud, take it away. You know, I worked these things out before I press record, and it was being overdriven, or it sounds that way. So you're going to hear like behind it, but it's actually the recorder itself. The Spirit Box isn't on yet. This is like a clip just before I put on the Spirit Box, and it told me what it thought of me, and I thought it was Kristen talking to me, and I'm trying to organize everything on my coffee table, and I hear it call me an asshole, and I go, yep, because I just thought she just said some random thing, and I'm like trying to fix everything, get it ready to go, and like, yep.
He acknowledged it.
Yeah. Okay, so I have the recorder going.
Okay.
Putting on my glasses.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I thought it was her on the phone, on speakerphone, telling me something, you know, because we were talking to each other and I had her on speakerphone. But yeah, that was pretty good. And it was actually one other one I'll play, and then we can just talk about whatever. This was another one. It's really one of our clearer EVPs. Did you hear that? You hear that? That's
Yes.
going on?
Yes.
It's the water itself.
We seem like when it gets like that, when the spirit is trying to communicate, touches it. It happens.
We have to press, talking to the boxes and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And sometimes it actually behaves that way. This was the other one we got that was right after the asshole.
Laptop.
Or this box or that box.
The I'm gonna say it part is not us.
It's not us. That's like one of our best CVPs.
Oh wow! Can you play it one more time?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Laptop.
Right there.
Or this box or that box.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's crazy.
So yeah, it's really clear.
I love
No
it.
kidding.
I like
Very,
it.
very
That's
good.
great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was going to ask if I can, with regards to the spirits, you identified them as, I think you said, Kristen, that there were 2 females and a male.
Yes.
Okay. And then you said there's like 5 or 6 spirits. So is it only the 3 that are more interactive than the others?
Well, no. Sometimes it's just the 2 women, and they follow me throughout the house where I go. I can feel them, but we don't know if they're stragglers or travelers through my house. But there have been more than 2 spirits. We actually have a clip of that as well.
Yeah, we actually asked that question, like how many are here, and I guess that's a pretty common question, but we got a pretty startling response. You want to hear it? It's very clear. It identifies.
Sure. I was just going to say, it sounds like almost your house is a portal, or do you know if you have a portal in your home?
Yes, it is. It's exactly
totally
what we call
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
You know,
Yep.
we call it the portal, and we got a little story about portals
Yes.
too that goes with that. We can talk.
Sure.
about
Did you want to talk about that before we play the clips of the other spirits? Because,
Sure.
yeah, no, this is fascinating.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Go ahead. Sorry, I don't want to just play the.
No, it's okay. So my son has this this game. It's for the Xbox. It's called, what is it? Xfinity?
It's a little figures.
Infinity. And he has
Yeah.
little figures he puts around it, and it literally has a portal in the middle.
It's called the portal, like on the box when you bought it.
So what happens?
Okay.
Put a figure in it, and they go in the game.
Yeah.
So you buy the figurines, and you got
You
this
put them
thing,
on top of
and
the
lights
portal.
up.
It lights up and stuff.
LEDs.
Well, for 2 days before that, my son's Xbox it hooks up to the Xbox. It's been in his room. So one night he came out and he goes, Mom, and he was like 10, and I'm looking at him. I'm like, yes. And the portal is literally lit up, and you can't light it up without putting it into the Xbox.
It's USB powered, and it wasn't plugged into anything. There were no batteries in it or anything. So she walks in the the Xbox is in his bedroom, and he's sitting in the living room, and it's on the coffee table, and it's all lit up, and it's literally called the portal.
Yeah.
And I think like the day before or something, we were saying
We were talking about the portal.
Your house
yeah,
is
the
like
house.
a portal. Like it's got high EMF and other things
And then
wrong with it
this-
because it's very old.
Yeah, this goes and lights up, and I'm like, I'm thinking to myself, I don't want to scare my child, and I'm like, well, there's no possible way at all that this could be lighting up. So of course, immediately on the phone with Chris, I'm like, you're not going to believe this. I sent him a picture, everything. So yeah, it was pretty crazy.
So good.
Do you think the portal? Sorry. Do you think the portal is in his room, or do you feel it kind of manifests in other rooms? What's your feeling on that?
I believe it's the entire house.
Okay. That sounds interesting. So do you use other equipment other than your voice recorders? Is there anything else that you use?
We use spirit boxes, mail meters, REM pods. We got different things going on.
Yeah, mouth readers.
We really like the audio because I always feel like it's the best thing if you can play.
Because it records, right? Yeah.
What would you say is your favorite tech to use? The digital recorder, or?
Yeah, definitely
Yes,
the recorder.
just the recorder.
I mean, to me, a good EVP is like just great data to have. Now, spirit photography is awesome, but it's very hard to come by and get like a full-bodied apparition. It's kind of the holy grail of the paranormal. So much so that I kind of rely more on audio. So I'm pretty good with that, and we like that. We do have a few other things, and we do some filming, but mostly, that Spirit Box 2, just getting EVPs with the recorder, walking in very basic, straight up, simple. I mean, a tool I like is a compass, and I get this from Hans Holzer, reading Hans Holzer books when I was in middle school. He talks about using a old school real compass on investigations and that kind of thing, and I think people forget that's actually a good thing you can buy for a couple of bucks, and if it starts spinning erratically, you might be onto something.
Right.
Yeah, because a lot of times when a spirit manifests, and that's been proven, there is a fluctuation and or a disturbance in the electromagnetic energy of a place. So of course the compass
Absolutely.
would, yeah,
absolutely, and that's a good way to see that. But I'll be honest with you, anything works. So if they want to make their presence known, they'll use any tool. Divining rods, like people talk about those, right? They work. People find wells with them. If spirit wants to communicate or whatever it is.
I have used plasma balls. Plasma balls, I love using them. You can tell obviously when a spirit's manipulating a plasma ball when it's in the proximity or when it's touching it. If you know how plasma balls work, and I know you guys do, the way the electricity will fluctuate and go to a certain spot or whatever. But plasma balls are great, and they seem to be attracted to that too.
That's awesome.
I don't doubt it. Like a source of energy.
I've used a flashlight, just sort of unscrew it a little bit, and just put it down on the ground or on a table or something. And once you start communicating with the spirit and talking to it, it will flicker. The light will flicker. And the more people you have, obviously, the more energy is generated. That gives a lot. Yeah, that gives a lot of feedback to the spirit. But you can actually interact with them that way. No, that's
absolutely
interesting.
You can do a yes/no thing and try to answer questions that way. I think it's wonderful.
I wanted to ask you, Chris, Kristen, about your personal magical occult practices, because you guys are paranormal investigators, but you guys also practice sorcery, and that's a rarity among paranormal investigators. As a general rule, it's a rarity. So tell me a little bit about that, like how old were you guys, or how you started, how you began in the realm of the occult. Or was it the paranormal that brought you to the realm of the occult?
No, not for me. In my experience growing up, my mother taught me a lot about nature and animals. I grew up on a farm, and Mom had me constantly in nature, teaching me things about how everything's alive. And, even though I was traumatized by these things in my house, I still had the love of nature and everything. So I started reading when I was a kid, here and there about nature books. And then it kind of got me into more of like I don't know how to really explain this, like into witchcraft. It kind of sent
Wicca.
Yes, it kind of sent me that direction. So as I was growing up and I was in my teens, I started to practice because I'm like, this is my path. This is why I'm here, and that's how I started. But then I started, and then I started to do my own thing and make my own herbs and potions and things, and it's all with the intent. I've learned, I tried to learn everything I could, everything. So I am an eclectic witch.
Okay.
And I've been doing it since I was a teenager.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cool.
I love nature, and I feel the same way as far as being in the woods and that kind of stuff. Like I'm in no happier place to be in the mountains or in the woods, and just I love that the whole earth magic concept, because I love that earth feeling. It's a great vibe. But I was into all sorts of things. I guess in middle school, I was drawn to it. A lot of it was part of a comic book ad called The Magic Power of Witchcraft by Gavin and Yvonne Frost.
I know who they are. Yes.
Do you know them? Because
yeah,
we used to advertise in comics, so all this stuff. It was that, and combined with my mom's own books on witchcraft, which we had in our family library and bookcases in our living room and stuff, which was more like, I don't know, colonial period or even earlier, like wood prints, things of that nature, that were in there, and kind of old history, not necessarily good, of witches, but not necessarily spell books either. But I thought it was something to this. I was very into it and drawn to it. And honestly, I bought that book and was disappointed eventually, but I wanted it for years. So I started, like, we went to flea markets and yard sales and stuff like that. Same as Kristen over here. And, my grandmother read fiercely. So I would always end up with books. And I had a few different books that were influential, like King of Witches by Alex Sanders.
Yes.
I wish I still had this. I had a hard copy version of this that was from like the 1960s. I got at a yard sale, and it had like the black and white pictures in the middle. You know how books, like, you would go to the book and in the middle would be all the pictures, and it were like naked witches in there and stuff, and like
like the Witch's Bible, the book, the Witch's Bible, and it's a big book. It's a great book, but yeah, they're on their sky clad,
there was correct.
doing rituals. Yeah.
Yeah, that was like my first dirty book in a way, but I was so drawn to it, and I kind of hit puberty a little young anyway, so it did interest me, and I was drawn to that and astral projection. Back when we had cassettes and cassette players, and I had a cassette player, I had a guided hypnosis cassette on how to astral project, and I was very successful. I was very good at it then, much better than I am now, with bringing it on in that way, and we're still working on that, but I guess where things were fresher in my mind and my belief system was like so open, I was able to achieve certain things, and I was very drawn to it. But to your point, Ken, about, like, the occultist in the paranormal field, this did expand into other things. And by the time I got into the and I hate this term, ghost hunting, and being on paranormal teams, I did do things like lesser banishing ritual, the pentagram, middle pillar rituals, before I would go into a location. And my cohorts on my team thought I was out of my friggin' mind. Because this is like 10 years ago, and like nobody did this shit, so doing this whole thing, and I got the athame and all that, and I was studying the writings of various ritual magicians at the time, and I was into this, and I did feel a lot from doing the lesser banishing ritual, and particularly the middle pillar at that time, where I felt like I was drawing a lot of energy. So it was odd, but I don't think it's as odd today. I think people have come a long way. The advent of shows like Hellier, and showing witches and things, and psychics and mediumship, coming more to the forefront. I mean, TV guides a lot of it, but you do what you do, right?
Do you find with your background, your occult background, do you think that is conducive for your paranormal investigations? Do you find that heightens your ability, or what's your feel on that?
I find absolutely. I think
so. And I think it's a never-ending process. Lately I've been in the hemisync, kind of harkening back to that middle school thing with like listening to the guided meditations. And
absolutely, meditation is the way.
The idea of shifting consciousness to be, very important in this whole thing, and that ultimately we might be just talking about consciousness shifting.
Absolutely.
And as far as like our UAPs go, that we see in UFO phenomena, it really does tie back to the paranormal, and it makes me wonder. Here at my age now, we talk about us wonder. Sorry, about what is it we're talking to?
Are we really talking to spirits?
Well, I wanted to touch upon, what are your thoughts on UFO? Because if we're going to go paranormal, and with spirits, with the occult, sooner or later, UFOs always come into the conversation. So what is your take on that?
I can get my notes out because I don't know, it's something important. So there's a lot of history behind UFOs, and I've come to find this out more recently, that our first sighting of UFOs in New England here was in 1639, and it was by the governor at the time of the Mass Bay colonies. His name was John Winthrop, and he was writing about a secondhand account in his diary, March 1st of that year, 1639, going way back, right? And the UFO experience was this. It was a man rowing in a boat. He described him as a sober, discreet man named John Everill, reported rowing a boat up the Muddy River, which is river here, at night when he and his boat mates saw a great light in the sky. Okay, right. That doesn't sound like a big deal. When it stood still, it flamed up, and he uses the word flamed. So this is something they had in their consciousness, right? They had flames, they had fire, obviously made
From their
fire.
perspective.
From their perspective, this is what they called it. It was about 3 yards square, and when it moved, it contracted into the shape of a swine. Now, again, something that they were familiar with, right? His perceptions, and I do talk a lot about our five senses, and like that's all we get out of our consciousness, other than something enhanced. He was able to pick up it looked like a pig to him, basically moving, and he was on a boat with several people, and they were watching the pig move, and then it turned into like flames, and all along the boat's moving. When it finally got out of their sight, they had gone like over a mile, and they had no idea. They actually experienced time lapse that they talk about today. This is back in 1939, how they got there, right? But everything within his perceptions and the way he describes it is stuff that you're familiar with. So there's a point to that. In the 1800s, people saw UFOs frequently, and a lot of people don't talk about this, but they appeared as balloons or blimp-like objects flying through the sky with spotlights and something called like an arc light, might look like an arc light, which is technology they had in their day, which basically is kind of like a light bulb, it's 2 points, and there's a stream of electricity between the two, a bit like
I know exactly.
plasma light,
like
right?
Edison's light bulb. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And they described it as like a giant one of those, something again they had seen. Now again, they have to reference something, right?
Right.
But it looked completely different. Certainly didn't call a pig or a swine going through the sky. Now they're calling it an arc light and wings, and there's literally thousands of reports on this stuff, which is very interesting. It's in the consciousness, right? So then you fast forward and you get into like the 40s, 50s, 60s. We're talking about saucers and things that have been put out by Hollywood and Roswell and whatnot. And I know, Ken, when you were on our show, we talked about like the theory of roles. Spirits step into roles sometimes. Like you might be thinking you're talking, or our spirit might identify an entity itself as a demon, like Beelzebub or something like Beelzebub.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's been a long day. Something like that, or Lucifer, and you don't feel like you're really talking to that demon. Like you just sense that there's maybe something
a little off,
stepping up or something into that role, and not that it doesn't have powers or anything. So since we've had that conversation, I've been thinking about some of this stuff, and I've been reading a lot of these alien abduction reports. And a gentleman by the name of Grant Cameron recently on a podcast, he talked about an alien abduction where the abductee said the alien told them they can only pull the information from their brain that they present to them. Like
that's the only
it
way
has
they'll
to be
understand
somewhere to reach your consciousness, to break through to your consciousness. I'm paraphrasing.
Makes sense.
Yeah, they have to get it from your head, right? So I started thinking about this. I'm like, wow, this is really messed up, right? Like, what does that mean in the paranormal world? Like, what are we talking to? We talk about something stepping up to a role. Is it even that? And I think he went on to mention something about something that appeared as a gray to a person. Told the abductee it was not a gray at all. That he just used the being to help them, be able to perceive them.
Right.
An ethereal being, right? And so we go back to ethereal beings, and we talk about things like the Anunnaki, and we talk about gods, and we talk about the occult, and we talk about things, nature, worship, and that sort of thing. Fairies. It's all things that are within our span of consciousness that seem to be coming back and like thrown back at us as like the only way they can really reach us. If they were to maybe tell us what they really were, our brains might go, psst,
melt,
done.
melt.
Right. Yeah.
It's a big statement to say we pulled it from your brain. Yeah.
That reminds me of the movie. I forget the actress's name. It's called Contact, and it was all about actually
Jodie Foster.
traveling.
Jodie Foster.
Thank you. Yes,
You're-
famous
Great
Jodie
movie.
Foster.
It wasn't it?
Yes. And that is very much in line with what we're speaking about. It's that point of contact within her own brain. Meanwhile, she thought she had traveled to another world, etc.
Right.
And all it was what a flicker of time, like 10 seconds or something, before the actual ball dropped. That whole spaceship that was actually built, right? So, you kind of think about that because it's true. Like, I know I'm a medium myself and a psychic. When I speak to spirits, they will use what
Mhm.
perception I have and what is in my mind. They'll give me images, they'll give me things I can relate to.
Exactly.
And so, it's limited to what my scope of experience is. But if I'm able to, do that and bring forth the messages for, people who come to me for readings, etc., right? How is that any different from like what we're talking about, aliens, right? Or any being, really? Because when you're thinking about it, you're actually talking about, whether you want to call it demons or anything, entities from other realms, and that has a lot to do with spirit work. When you're doing paranormal investigations, you're dealing with spiritual beings that are not on this plane any longer.
Exactly. They're like
Right?
interdimensional.
Right.
Mhm.
It makes you wonder if they're even from outer space or under the water, like USOs and that kind of stuff. In the 40s, 50s, 60s, we had the saucers, and they were put out kind of by Hollywood, and there were
Yeah.
government cover-ups started happening. There's even
Mhm.
rumors of things like the use of handicapped children that were surgically manipulated to make some of the old film footage. Though I can't validate any of that, I'm just going to throw it out there. I've heard this, or seen it, and on the interwebs, and I find that spooky as hell. So the government starts covering things up, leaking things into the mainstream, like we're seeing right now.
On
Right,
purpose.
we're seeing the biggest example, I think, in our lifetime of UFO footage or UAP, whatever you want to call it.
UAPs.
Between the Tic Tacs, the triangles, and the pyramids, and everything else is like flying around. Like what is this? What's going on? But you saw triangular shapes start to emerge in like the 70s to present times with abductees, the Phoenix Lights, things like that nature, right? So it goes back to consciousness and what we can perceive. And I have to wonder, like, and I don't want this to be true.
No.
But are spiritual communications like based somehow on aliens? I hope not. I feel like I've had contact with family members and streamed information that only they would know and that kind of stuff. But again, that statement, they pull it from your brain, is a big statement. You can look at like evidential mediumship, right? Where a medium is presenting data from that only the family knows, but who's to say they don't take it from the family's head?
Right.
Right. Scary stuff. And I hope that's true.
Well, I know based on experience that a lot of demonic entities. First of all, demons are master shapeshifters. They can pose as any damn thing they want to. You hear a lot about the little girl haunting a building or haunting a house, wearing a white dress with long hair. Sometimes it's dark hair, sometimes it's blonde hair, but it's always a little girl running down the hallway in a white dress. Well, 99% of the time, it's a demon. It's a demon. So, I mean, how hard would it be for a demonic entity to pose as a gray or some shit like that? It wouldn't. And of course, they would use that to their advantage. What kind of experience do you guys have, if any, since you've been on the paranormal path? Ghost hunting specifically. I know you hate the term, but there it is. With demons, have you ran into demons? Have you ran into demonic, non-human spirits? Demonic entities.
And I would say yes. Now I've done demon work before and magical path.
Yes,
so I'm kind of familiar with it from that standpoint. But as far as like what we just come across, randomly, I'll go back to that, roles thing, like you just mentioned with a little girl. A lot of these things are legends that surround haunted locations, and people are going to perceive it. We encountered what appeared to be a child spirit named Toby. Right. So we go to a location. We get the name Toby on a spirit box, and we're like, wow, there's something going on here, and it sounds like a little kid's voice. And we say, you know, Toby, how old are you? And it comes back 7 several times, 777. We ask some more questions. It goes on. We return to that location, like, you know, a month later or something. Say, Toby, how old are you? And we get the same response. 777. What happened, Toby? I was hung. Now, there's a legend around that particular boneyard about a teenager or child hanging themselves. There's a big tree, like when you first walk in. So it's in people's consciousness, right? They think that's the hanging tree. It has a name and that kind of stuff. And there we are. We're seeing things stepping into those roles, or at least trying to cross our consciousness with its verbiage by saying, you know, maybe it's seriously if I say I'm a little kid and, you know, I'm hung, you know, that kind of stuff. I don't know what we talk to be honest with you.
And it sounds just like a child.
Sounds like a child, acted like a child. We tried to beat it out. Kristen built you combined some
crushed up candy and some herbs and cast out evil and stuff.
Yeah, right. Mojo.
Yes, the lucky mojo.
Okay, so you took more of a hoodoo type approach to it.
I did.
We did.
Depending on the situation, for me, in my opinion and my point of view, depending on what it is that I need to do, I do my own thing and intentions, and there's other things. I work with holy water as well, so depending on the situation. So at that point, I crushed up candy. I did peaceful, and I had herbs and do motherwort, and I put it all together, and we actually sprinkled it throughout.
We made a trail out
because it's a smaller cemetery, so we made a trail out. We kept those gates open, and we were like, cast out evil.
Yeah, we brought some toys with us, things like a ball and
that lights up.
So we tried to walk them out, and in fairness, with this idea, you know, that spirits might be aliens or whatever, wherever we're going with it. We went back and tried to talk to Toby again, and we were not able to talk to him. So you know, maybe it worked. You know, it's
sounds like
you
it.
Exercised.
Yeah, it certainly does.
You exercised the little spirit of the child.
Well, we hope we freed him.
Hope so. We're hoping.
I have a couple of clips with Toby. Do you want to hear them real quick?
Sure.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of interesting. It was very convincing to us, and you'll see why when I play them.
Sad. One of them was really sad.
You gotta go back one moment. Okay, this was the first time we went there, and we asked Toby how old he was.
Toby, how old are you?
Oh, that's quite clear.
How old are you?
Right, and you hear him say there at least 2 times. He's 7.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you can hear that clear, especially the first one. Can you play that one more time?
I can. I've got a few Toby things, so bear with us.
Toby, how old are you?
7.
Wow.
Very clearly. Very. Absolutely.
There's a low one there.
Interesting.
How old are you?
Then I asked the same question. 7. Hi.
A little fainter, but you could clearly hear it for sure.
Yeah.
Right at the end of the 7. So we went back and we asked the same question, and this is that.
Toby, can you tell us how old you are again?
Twice.
Yeah, and you hear us talking. We heard it in real time.
Okay.
Actually,
I didn't hear it too clearly there.
Yeah, and it might be part of the way I'm streaming it to you. So I do apologize.
Okay, no problem.
And everything. But we were sitting in a group. We had met a couple people that we didn't know. A couple girls that were investigating the place themselves. We invited them to a spirit box session to sit down with us and do this. And you hear their voices in there as well. And you know, we all heard it in real time. Goes 7, and they're like, "Oh, what the hell's going on?" So I took that session and parts of it there. We had this communication with Toby, and I used something called noise reduction and Audacity, which is kind of like free software to, you know, chop your WAV files or amplify them or whatever. the noise reduction took out a little bit of the static, and when I did that, it revealed something else. So I'm just going to play that, and we can lay off the clips if you want. But it's pretty cool and endearing to Toby. Kristen first heard this, and she called me at work, and she was like almost in tears, like, "Oh my God, you got to hear this!
Listen to it now."
I was like,
While you're at work.
Oh, okay. But
He did.
It did feel bad. Just go for it. So it's going to sound
Toby, are you here?
a little underwater sounding, and that's the noise reduction. But it's the same recording you just heard.
He's sobbing.
Sobbing and
Toby, can you tell us how old you are again? Seven.
Twice.
Here. I didn't hear this.
We did. Yeah. Toby, what's your last name?
hear the sobs.
Mm-hmm.
Right there. Where's mom? Is what he's saying there.
Why are you guys here?
That's his belief.
Leave. We did it again. Two leaves. Does that mean you're leaving or we should leave? Scared. You're scared to leave.
Scared to leave.
Why are you scared to leave?
And we don't really get an answer for why he was scared to leave. But
Right.
Well, you can clearly hear the first one you played where you asked his age and he said 7. You can clearly hear in all of those, it's the exact same voice, the exact same tone, sounds the same age. I don't believe that's demonic. I believe that is legitimately a child's spirit.
yeah,
I do
like
too.
it felt like it, and we were into it. You know, we were kind of obsessed with this. So we
That's
certainly
and-
we took whatever we could learn and tried to
to
walk him out, and we
yeah.
hope it worked. You know,
Do you feel like you've helped him cross over?
Yes.
yeah, we couldn't contact him when we went back, so we're going back again.
And
in
where
July.
was that?
We do our anniversary is on July 4th, and that's how we spend it. We go to Spider Gates.
At Spider Gates in Leicester, Massachusetts.
It's a graveyard in Leicester, Massachusetts. It's
Spider
a quick,
Gate.
And that's where you saw, or that's where the spirit Toby was, right?
And it's what is it? Friends Cemetery. It's a Quaker
Friends
cemetery.
cemetery, and you guys are in Florida, so you know you don't know what this looks like. So it's people call it Spider Gates, and I'm going to share a picture with you if I can pull this off
Sure.
of what the gates look like and why they call it that.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see if I can do a share.
Yeah, I heard you guys talking about this on the show Bigfoot and the Bunny earlier today.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
And you were saying that the gates look like a. I'd love to see a picture. Sure.
There you go. Does that show up? Do you see that? It says I'm sharing. You can see the gates.
Can you guys see the gates?
I can.
No, maybe that's not working from my end then.
Probably.
It looks like it's sharing, but maybe it's not. Oh, wait, it's right here. You got to bring it into stream. It popped up on the side.
Yeah, you guys have to bring it into the stream.
Okay.
No worries. If you don't have the
All
button, it's good.
I mean, I can look it up later, and anybody that's watching the show, all they have to do is look up Spider Gate Cemetery, right? And it's going to show pictures.
It's in Leicester, and it looks like it's spelled Leicester, Massachusetts.
Right. The
Spell things
English spelling of Leicester.
up here. We have Worcester, and it looks like it's Worcester, but it's Worcester. Worcester, if you're from up here. Up here.
Well, Chris, let me ask you this. Okay, dealing with demons at a paranormal investigation is one thing, and I know that, and you know that. but working with and dealing with demons in a controlled environment that you, as the sorcerer, as the occultist, create, that's another situation. I worked with both of them. I worked with angels, I worked with demons. Technically, they're the same thing. One's just a little darker than the other normally. So, what do you see as being the big difference? I mean, obviously there is one, but when you work with a demon in a controlled environment versus running into one at somewhere like Waverly Hills or whatever,
Well, the demon work I've done has all been like beneficial work, and it's usually through things like self-improvement I'm asking for, and it's merely a matter of giving it what it wants. And in the paranormal world, I haven't encountered too many evil entities, as it were. I haven't been to Waverly Hills, to be honest with you, but I imagine.
Yeah, I just use that as an example, but
a good example. And there, Amityville is a really good example. I think there was probably a demon there that drove that, drove them to the brink and what they experienced. But for ourselves, it's been mostly spiritual. We haven't had a lot of evil things. We have this thing called the AM band. We talk about the evil AM band. And there might be something attached to that. And that kind of crosses back with the alien phenomena, because we get things back like hybrids and words like that when we talk to it. And, it's a lot to explain. I almost want to just recommend people check out our Dark Horse Paranormal podcast.
Yes.
Could advertise that.
And of course.
Evil AM band. We would put on the AM band with our spirit box and run it, and we seemed to be getting the same stuff wherever we went for the longest time, like we were channeling it, and that had hints of demonic presence to us. We felt there was something very wrong with that. Kristen's clairvoyance was kicking up, and she does not like to see things, correct?
No, I do not.
She hates it.
I shut it
she
off.
was seeing things during that time. This is why we took breaks from it, stuff like this, because it was too much. And we found that
definitely.
Yes.
All right. And you start to obsess on these things, like Toby, took up a lot of our mental time.
Yeah.
And they draw on your own energy too. That's something that people forget when you're doing paranormal investigations or you're a medium. There's that part of you that gets drawn into it, and they use your energy, right? So
yes, they
absolutely.
feed on it.
And you don't have to be on location for that to happen. I think it's just the focus and intent.
That's right. That's
absolutely.
right.
So it was happening in our homes. That's why we had, EVPs like we played a little earlier, where, we'd feel a high energy thing and to put on, call me, put it on speakerphone, and there's stuff, I mean, it's the chemistry between us, and it's also the focus, that focus, like you mentioned, you give it attention, you build it, it will come.
Right.
Now, do you guys practice magic together, or do you, Chris, have your own thing you do, and do you, Kristen, have your own thing you do, or do you guys come together?
Once in a great while, we come together, but most of the time it's separate.
Are we talking about magic here?
Yes.
Behave yourself, sir.
Yeah, with the magic.
The other magic.
That magic.
Kristen has a magic approach that I do like, and sometimes we can do stuff together. And I like a lot of stuff. I mean, we both are very eclectic, and we just come from different backgrounds. So mostly it's separate. That I've tried some gin work. We've talked about Ken. I did that by myself, but Kristen also can do things with Bailey's that are wicked. So there you go.
Thank you, babe. Bailey's that are wicked. That's great.
Well, we're from Boston, so everything's wicked up here.
True that.
Wicked cool, man.
So, what would you guys consider, or what place would you guys consider to have been the absolute most terrifying investigation you've ever had to deal with?
Good question.
Together?
Yeah, we've only been doing this a couple of years together, so I would say, I don't know. I think the AM band.
It's more the spider gates with the AM band, because the AM band read us.
There's multiple locations, but whatever is attached to that really struck the shit out of us. And
yeah,
it was creepy.
It led us down tons of rabbit holes that
right,
it's just
which is another
very
thing, right?
dark places.
So a lot of investigators talk about this, like the rabbit hole theory, right? You start to investigate something, and all you get is more questions and more questions. And doesn't that
Absolutely.
cause an intent right there? So
Yeah.
it's a parasitical effect. It's drawing your energy in and your mental time, and you know, you're putting thought into it, and you're just giving it stuff.
Like we were just talking about, Teresa, right? Where it feeds off you. And
yeah, we really wanted to figure out who this was. We kept getting these cryptic names. We're looking up the names. We're all into this stuff, and we kept hearing the same names. And
then we're going genealogy, genealogy,
looking up genealogy,
families,
and the guy doesn't exist, but his name gets repeated over and over.
It's ridiculous.
You know,
it's fascinating work, because once you do it, it lends, confirmation to everything that you've investigated, right? I mean, that's the whole point, is so that you go, hey, right on, I was doing a good job, I got it, right? And I think the other thing too is sometimes when you go to haunted places, you forget the history that's attached, and that's important, especially when you have spirits that are attached to a certain place, to a building, a cemetery, or whatever. It's the retelling of their own story, and I think that's going to be important for the spirit to be able to say that, because sometimes spirits will look to you to help them to cross over, or to help another family member. I know that that's how it works in my world, right? So these are things that we have to kind of remember.
I wanted to say no, go ahead, Teresa, go ahead.
I was going to say, since we're sort of talking about what was the most haunted place that you both felt, I wanted to reflect back to, if we can, talk about what was traumatic for you as a child. Kristen, are you okay talking about that? And Chris, because you both spoke of that was what brought you into the field. So if you could just sort of give us a story on that, and what was scary to you.
Okay, when I was growing up, and as far as I can remember, it was probably about 4 years old. I was always constantly getting this. I didn't know at the time what it was, but this spirit that would bother me, and I mean, like, this thing would bother me. Like I had a doll. It was plush, in the middle. And it was porcelain on the arms and the head, and it had like a little head of hair. And when you pulled the string, it made that music box noise, and its head would bob around. Well, that thing kept going off. I would have a tea party. I'm little by myself. I was an old child, so I would have a tea party by myself or whatever, and that thing would constantly go off. And at night, while I was sleeping, it was going off. But I've also not ran into that. I've also seen shadow people in my room. Yeah. And that really scared me a lot. And I could hear like really foul language and stuff. And it really bothered me a lot. And I tried to tell my parents. My father, forget about it. But a couple of years ago, my mother was like, hey, you know something? Because when I first started getting into it, she goes, I want to tell you something. She says, our house was owned by a witch, and it was a man and his son. And I'm like, do tell. Thanks, Mom. How old am I? Do tell. Yeah, exactly. She's like, yep, it was a male, and he died on the property. In fact, in my room. And he used to bury stuff in the backyard, and she, being a witch and stuff, he would do that part. And she used to dig stuff up. And I'm like, thank you so much for telling me that, because that kind of, I felt that it was a male trying to whatever with the voices and telling me awful things. And it was just awful. And the other spirits around it and things. So it was just, I actually one day was standing on top of my stairs. Our house was like a loft, and my mom called me. When my mom called me, I went to the top of the stairs. I'm like, yes, Mom, and I felt this 2 hands from the back of my back push me. Almost broke my neck right down my stairs. Yeah, it was very yeah, no, it was just really bad. And that's why I've never really liked it before. So I kind of learned how to turn off the vision and
The ability to, tune in.
I don't know how, but it just came to me like that. But also, I don't know. It's just, it's very, that's very traumatized, especially when it touches you, they hurt you. And it's very scary.
I'm surprised, that your mother didn't, take it more serious at the time. Your dad, obviously, you said he didn't want to have anything to do with that.
No. I tried to tell her, but she was like, "Oh, it's all in your mind."
I've noticed that a lot when it comes to like the male, the husband. They never want to take it seriously. They always want to write it off. But you know what? They might write that shit off and they might pretend that it's not happening, but they believe and they know that shit's really happening.
Do you know how I know?
When we were want to admit it.
Right, because when we were about to sell our house, my parents divorced and we were about to sell our house. And my father said to one of his friends as we were walking out of the house one day, it seems like when you walk in that house, seems like somebody's going to reach out and grab you. I looked at him and I'm like, seriously, man, I've been dealing with this for 13 years and you tell me this now, And it was just a lot of activity and it was just very scary and traumatic. And
I wanted to ask Chris, did you have anything that was similar like that as a child?
Yeah, I did have kind of a messed up childhood. My parents got married pretty young, and they were at 21 when my father built a house. It's actually close to where I'm living now in Rhode Island. It's walking distance. They experienced a certain amount of haunting and paranormal activity that they talked about through their lives, even though they divorced shortly after. My memories of that time are very strange and kind of whacked, but I'm just prefacing it with that. But I remember it very clearly. Are you familiar with Steiff dolls? It's a German company.
I'm not.
No, not really.
They used to be more of a thing. They invented the teddy bear after Teddy Roosevelt, but prior to that, they also made figures and different things. And I had a couple of these figures that look like clowns. And I know this sounds like a stereotype going into it, so bear with me. I've seen Poltergeist, I know, but this was before Poltergeist came out. I had two of them. I had one that was actually a little taller than I was, and I had a small one. And basically, they had all split heads, hand-painted faces, and they were cloth and wire in design as far as the bodies went. And you could, bend the arms and that kind of stuff. Very collectible today. I wish I still had them, but I don't for the reasons I'm going to tell you. The larger one scared me as a child, and it appeared to be an evil entity. And then again, I know this sounds whack. It wanted to kill my parents, and it plotted to kill my parents all the time.
Wow.
The way I knew this was from the smaller one. In my perception, now I'm not saying the balsa wood moved and its mouth opened up, but it did appear to do so. It would tell me its plans, right? So this is the mind of a small child. Now I'm young at this point, so bear with me. He would tell me the nefarious plans of the large clown. I was trying to commit homicide in my home and kill my mom and dad, right? Which was just horrible, horrifying thing. This leads up to a confrontation where I've gotten a shovel out of the garage in my memory. I'm not saying it really happened. It's in my memory, though. I remember it. And beating the crap out of the larger clown and literally dragging it outside and burying it in a lot that was next door. My parents had haunted experiences in this house. They never had haunted experiences in any other house that they would go on to live in. At the time, they heard babies crying in our basement, footsteps coming out from the basement. And there was a gentleman who would walk by the house every day. He appeared to be of Native American descent. He wore a corduroy suit. My parents both saw him, and a certain time of day, they would see him walk by. They asked him, they both told the same story, even though they weren't together, really didn't talk a lot. So I give it some credence, right? I asked the neighbors, like, who's that guy that walks by the house every day? And they're like, what guy? Right. Nobody else but them.
Mhm.
One night, my
Mhm.
father wakes up. He's a young man. Again, he's like 21. Wakes up, sees the figure of this gentleman peering over my mother over the bed.
Mhm.
He reaches under the pillow that he kept, and he's from Philadelphia. He was a pretty tough guy. He had kept a big knife under the pillow, and he was ready, you know. And he stabs through the figure, and it goes right through the figure. And he almost accidentally stabs my mom. Figure just
wow.
Yeah.
it's gone.
Right.
And all he recalls is feeling the feel of corduroy, because the man always wore a corduroy suit.
Wow. That's
Wow.
a powerful manifestation. When you could actually feel the clothing,
He
that
felt
is a powerful manifestation.
it'd tell you if you
Absolutely.
sitting with us, he'd tell you all about it. It really happened. They both told the same stories. There was definitely something about that location. So when my memories about these Stife clowns and stuff, as whacked as that seems when they're playing a homicide, and it's kind of funny in a way, but in hindsight,
Right.
I do think I experienced these experiences to my perceptions as a child,
Absolutely.
in a wide open mind, you know, uncontaminated by anything. I was in preschool. So yeah.
It reminds you of Pennywise, you know,
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
from that Steven Spielberg movie.
Yeah. Stephen King. Yeah.
Clowns.
Stephen
Yeah.
King, sorry.
I have no clown fears, though. Oddly, you'd think that'd be like, you know, clownophobia, whatever they call it.
Clownophobia.
But I don't.
Clownophobia.
Yeah. I don't know what the medical term or whatever is for
Or the
being afraid of
metaphysical
clowns.
term for
Yeah.
Fear of
But-
clowns. I think there is one, actually,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. I mean,
Interesting.
some people are afraid of tinfoil. Some people are afraid of mayonnaise and mustard. I mean, those are, I know, right? Those are legitimate phobias.
My
Yeah.
son has
Absolutely.
a fear of mayonnaise.
Oh,
What
really?
is wrong with that? Yes.
Do you know the term for that? I don't.
I don't know. I wish I did. I can look it-
Mayophobia.
Thank you.
Mayophobia.
There you go,
Here,
Teresa.
little
There's a lot of phobias out there. You know, I mean, I used to know. Okay, I used to know a guy who was scared of his own penis. He wanted. No, I'm serious.
Come on.
He wanted to be. I'm not kidding.
Okay, so like,
Right.
how did he pee? Okay, I'm just gonna
Thank you.
bluntly ask you.
Well, you know, I mean, I don't know how he dealt with it, but he wanted he used to write letters all the time to doctors and doctors' offices that he wanted to be chemically castrated. He wanted to be able to take something that would dissolve it.
Oh my God.
Wow.
He was scared of his
Oh, dear.
penis.
That's horrifying. I mean, that's like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
no kidding. To be
Yeah.
scared of a part of your body. I mean, okay, yeah.
And
Yeah.
apparently it's a
That's a-
legitimate
Phobia.
phobia.
It's a
But
thing.
I don't know if he ever got chemically castrated, but I don't even
It's a
know
thing.
how the hell they would do that either. But
We don't
I-
want to know. We don't want to know.
Then
So I
was-
wanted to ask before we kind of come to a conclusion of our show. But sorry, did I interrupt, Chris? Did you want to
No,
say
it's okay,
something?
go ahead. No, it's not important.
No. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No. Just
No?
clownophobia
Okay,
stuff.
okay.
Let's go. We'll move on.
Okay. All right. So I wanted to ask both of you, what do you think of shadow people? Because we talked about spirits,
yeah.
we've talked about demons, we've talked about aliens and everything. What is your perception of shadow people? Okay. Because that's something that I've tried to define it for myself, and I'm kind of still lacking to really give it a definitive answer. So what do you know, and Ken, please jump in. What I'm putting this out to everybody. What do you think of shadow people?
I think they're negative myself. I haven't observed one since I left that farmhouse until we were obsessed with this AM band. And one day I asked Chris, I was vacuuming, and right behind me, my shadow, there was this hat man shadow right behind me. My vacuum flying through my house. It scared the crap out of me. And I'm like trying to sit there and catch my breath. I'm like, because this reminds me of my childhood, and I just I couldn't deal with it. But I find it to be very negative.
I'm going to tell you something. I can't talk much about it, but it's crazy that you bring up the Hat Man, which in my opinion is a type of shadow person. And I also think shadow people are an interdimensional spiritual entity. But I am
That's
currently
kind of where I went.
I'm not going to say much about it, but currently I am involved in an investigation where I know there is a Hat Man involved, which is I don't know, a type of or a species of shadow person.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah. Very scary.
I know for a fact I have seen the full body manifestation of this damn thing, and it's real. And Kristen, I agree. They're 100% negative. They're extremely dangerous,
Yes, they are.
and they can harm people.
They
Not
can be
just-
physical. They're very physical. They have enough energy.
Yes. Not just mental, not just spiritual, but they can physically hurt a person.
Yes, they can.
Hat Man, real deal, real thing, real entity, a type of shadow species. I'm just saying species, you know. Interdimensional. Yes, they are real, 100%. And there's hundreds of those things.
Yes, there is. There's a lot of them. Chris and I definitely agree about interdimensional. They are interdimensional entities.
I haven't had a lot of experience with Hat Man myself, but I mean, the stories I've heard from Kristen are terrifying. Obviously, her childhood. I know how scared she is. Like, she really
I can't look at it on the TV like a documentary.
What's that movie? The Nun.
Oh my God.
Like,
yeah.
Right.
So the Nun. Well, the Nun is from The Conjuring.
The promo picture from it is enough to set it off.
I can't see that because that's the evil entity in the beginning that started haunting me. It looks like that to
looks
me.
similar.
So I can't. But when I come
how much
Hat Man
was put across.
Yeah, Hat Man and Shadow Man. I can't even bother looking at that either.
Right.
It really bothered me.
Right. I tried to watch a Shadow Man documentary with her, and she couldn't. I tried 3 times. She wouldn't watch it.
Nope. I will not. I don't even look at it.
So that expresses. I'm laughing, but I shouldn't. But it is the trauma that was given to her.
No, for sure.
So
well, I'm
talk about it. They mean it.
No, I'm going to throw it out there. Something that I had read about, because every so often I like to delve into shadow people and just sort of get other things that I find on Google or people's opinion on it. But something that I had come across was because we're talking, and I agree with everything that everyone said right now, as interdimensional beings. And I feel like the jinn are a class of interdimensional beings and a shadow type of species, if we're going to use that terminology, right? Because in a sense, like, okay, if you're in a paranormal situation, you're in a haunted building or whatever, we see the shadow people, whatever. But I'm talking about, like, I think, Kristen, you can relate to it. Like when you're in your room, you're about to go to sleep, and you're just about to nod off, and you see something, a shadow person there. This is kind of like where I've sort of gone, well, how do we know that we are not followed by a class of shadow people, the jinn? And I know Ken has a lot of experience with that. I know I have one, so I'm just throwing that out there. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm not sure. You go with that. I try not to. I know the jinn are shapeshifters. I'm wondering if they are as well, the Hat or whatever, shadow people. And I know, like I said, they're interdimensional. Where do you stand on that?
I think they probably are interdimensional, and I think there are things that have lived on this earth or within this earth and continue to live, even though we don't always perceive them, that are much older than humans.
Right.
Absolutely.
And I think they fit into that class. I don't know that they're necessarily, Hat Man, but I think they're powerful. I think they exist. I think things like fairies and the lore of old are absolutely intertwined into all of this. And it was, again, talking about perceptions and the history. I went into the history of UFOs a little bit. It's also a history of spiritual contact. It changes with the more we know and what we can perceive without our brains like exploding or something.
Melting.
Yeah. As human beings, you're kind of programmed to filter. You have to filter that shit. Otherwise you could lose your mind. You could go crazy. You could have a panic attack or even a heart attack. It could kill you out of fright. I mean, people have died because of extreme amounts of fear. Yeah, I think sometimes that the jinn can be perceived as shadow people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's really up to the person. I mean, just like anything else, there's really good jinn and there's really dark and demented jinn out there.
Exactly. That's why I wanted to bring that up, because we sort of classified them as negative, but
I've dealt with demons. I've done exorcisms on demons, and I've said this on other podcasts that I was interviewed. I would much rather not have to go toe to toe with a jinn. I really would. I don't want to do that.
I suspect there's a lot of power there, just from the little that I've worked with.
Yeah.
As far as the demons go, I've done demon work, and they are real and they are strong, and they will present themselves, and you will see them. And it's a real thing. The D Word series is something that we were putting together and trying to get people's different opinions of what demons are, and we still have yet to conclude it because we're getting opinions from different backgrounds and people that tend to be not really into demons in the way that we are, Ken. Like we look at that and go, well, I kind of like them. Are we talking about the same entities all the time? Maybe different flavors of them. I mean, I don't think I'm necessarily working with something that is driving people to suicidal thoughts, but it's not out of the question either. I mean, you want to have control.
Exactly.
No, definitely.
Scary, yeah.
So, Ken, do you have anything else? Any other questions that you wanted to ask, or?
Not right off the bat. Well, I mean, I had several before the show started, and then.
Go ahead.
You know how that goes. Well, you
know what? Then that means we definitely have to have Chris and Kristen back. Bunny and again, I want to say
Bigfoot and the Bunny,
man. Bunny and
Bigfoot and I made a jingle. I created a jingle for you guys.
Okay, let's hear it.
Bigfoot and the Bunny. Bigfoot and the Bunny. Woo.
He was actually singing this to me. He really was.
That's great. You're awesome.
Right
Thank
on.
you.
I love it.
If you guys ever decide to get a jingle for your intro, let me know.
Use Ken's voice. Definitely use Ken's voice.
You got some high notes there. Yeah, absolutely.
I do love the name. I do like your show, you guys' show. I think your guys' show is great, and you're not afraid. You're not afraid to talk about the paranormal, the demons, the jinn, witchcraft, sorcery, anything, paranormal, occult, and all in between. You're not afraid to talk about those things. Sex magic. You guys are cool with talking about that.
Sure.
Speaking of that, I know you guys practiced it.
That's right.
How do you know that?
How did you know that? How'd you find that out?
I can see it in Chris's eyes.
It's a happy ending. What better way to focus your intent? Sure, of course.
It's powerful stuff though, and it does work. And a lot of people think that in order to make sex magic work, you have to have a partner. You don't always have to do that. Autoerotica, especially with sigil magic and charging sigils, you get the intent is here. The intent is here, but when that release, that climax, the orgasm happens, you focus on that sigil, you focus on that intent, and that is some of the most powerful magic imaginable. And it does work. And I've known people who have conjured demons using sex magic in a holy circle.
Holy moly.
Sure.
There you go.
Through autoerotica.
There's a lot of energy.
Is that what you're going to call it? Autoerotica. Okay.
I think we were talking about it.
Do you like that, Teresa?
You had something.
I love it. I call it self-manipulation, but there's other phrases, right?
Autoerotica.
Autoerotica. Ken, I love you.
Just doing it in cars.
Oh, yeah.
What did you say? Doing it in the car?
doing it in cars.
In cars.
Auto.
Otto, erotica.
Otto.
But
Erotica.
if you said you got something to wipe
That's cute.
out, you're good.
Christopher.
Oh my Lord. Hey, it's cool. You can talk about whatever you want on here. We don't care.
Right on.
It's the
Absolutely.
Wizard's
You guys are
Table.
awesome. It's so much fun.
Yeah, you are. We have a great time, and we're
That's
excited
right.
for this, so we appreciate
Yeah.
it. Thank you for
so
giving
much.
us the opportunity to come out here and
Thank you.
talk about
very
ourselves,
welcome.
because we do the show. We're on the other side of the mic most of the time. We try to give people drips and drabs of what we're about, but if you're not really good, you probably miss a lot of it.
So, if for all of our viewers or listeners and everything in between, human and non-human alike, if you want to hear more from Chris and Kristen, Bigfoot and the Bunny, when is what is the regular schedule for your show?
Yes.
We're on every Saturday from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern. You can catch us. We're on Facebook and in 3 different places. If you just go to Facebook and look for Bigfoot and the Bunny, like basically facebook.com/Bigfoot and the Bunny, you'll find us, and that will lead to all the other avenues that we're
The outlets.
on. We're on a couple of different networks. We do we take that show from Saturdays, right, from 4 to 6, and then we add stuff to it and add bonus features, and we put it out as a podcast for Paranormal UK.
Every
it comes out
Wednesday.
on Wednesday. And we try to throw some extras in there, make it different.
Cool. Yeah.
And we also go out, on, like I said, a couple different networks, the Bigfoot and the Bunny page, of course, but we're also on Paranormal United Network TV, Pun TV, and UFO Radio. Yeah, UFO Paranormal Radio out of New Orleans. Yeah.
Well, we definitely want to have you guys on again.
Great.
Thank you.
And if I ever, and I will get the chance to head to Canada, Ontario, to see Teresa. I'm stopping by New England first.
You better.
That's right. It's on the
see
way.
you guys.
It's on the way.
Because I want some chowder.
Oh my God! Yes, chowder.
You got to have the clam cakes with it. Oh my God, the clam cakes is my favorite.
Okay, all right.
Summer, it's wonderful.
It sounds great to me. But yeah, guys, thank you guys so much for coming on.
Yes,
thank you for everything you do. Paranormal investigations, occult practices, Bigfoot and the Bunny.
Yeah,
absolutely. Let's hear it for them. All right. So thank you once again. And Ken, thank you for having me as your co-host. I always enjoy my time with you.
Thank you.
And thank you to our guests too. All right. So everybody who tuned in, I hope, I don't know, maybe I didn't do something right, but we'll find out. Anyway.
You did great.
So,
it was great. It was great, Teresa.
Right.
You did good. You did good.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks again.
We appreciate it. And we look forward to having you back on our show as well, Ken.
Thank you, guys.
Awesome.
Blessings.
Thank you. You too.
Okay. Bye, everybody.